faculty and students, ladies and gentlemen. My topic today is powering up Taiwan the nuclear way. I believe I do. Okay. And this is my this is my outline. I'm going to start from the introduction all the way to the final conclusion. We talk about various aspects of nuclear power, its impact on the global warming and the pollution, and the energy demand, and also the accidents at nuclear power plants. Okay. My experience in nuclear energy is over the last 38.5 years. I've been working in the various areas of nuclear-related field, anywhere from the reactor all the way to the severe accident management. Okay. The nuclear reactor is a pressurized vessel. Okay. With its wall is about 20 centimeters thick. It can sustain pressure about up to 90 atmospheric pressure. The essential issue is to keep the reactor core always covered with water. They will never get overheated, no core meltdown, no radionuclide releases. That's the crucial thing, to always keep the nuclear core covered with water. Okay. The nuclear core is composed of this so-called fuel pellet. Each one will produce 61.3 watts for 1.5 years. And there are 18 million pellets in the nuclear core. Okay? And we have nuclear rod, which is stacking up of this nuclear fuel pellet. Okay, it's 4.18 meter long. There are over 5,000 rods in reactors. There are over 193 bundles. Each bundle got about 100 or more nuclear rods. So those are so-called in the nuclear core, and will generate tremendous amount of power. Okay. And this fuel assembly, you have see these crossbars, so-called control blade. They'll be used to automatically shut down the reactor once anything happens. High pressure, low water level, high radionuclide levels. Okay. And besides the automatic shutdown, there's another manual shutdown and another boron injection. So there are 3 ways to shut down a reactor. Just like the car brakes, you have 3 types of brake to stop your car. Okay. So during the normal operation, you generate tremendous amount of heat. But during the shutdown, you have so-called residual heat. Okay. And the residual heat will become, when it's full power, each nuclear power plant will be 3,300 megawatts thermal. Okay. So after shutting down, in 1 second, it will drop all the way from 100% to 7%. In about a little bit less than 4 hours, it dropped to about 1%. So it's only 33 megawatt thermal. Okay. Besides the nuclear core, which is in the reactor pressure vessel, you have a containment outside to enclose everything inside this containment. Also, you have the turbine building to generate the power. Then the residual heat to remove any the heat from the reactor together with the containment. Okay. So the difference between a nuclear power generation and the conventional so-called fossil fuel is just is the energy generating part. The rest, the electrical power generation and the delivering electricity are the same. Okay, we have, for a typical nuclear power plant, we have 6 high pressure systems and 7 low pressure systems to inject water into the core to keep the core cool. Any one of these water injections will be able to remove the so-called residual heat and keep the nuclear power plant safe. During the construction of the site, here's the reactor pressure vessel. This is the so-called containment. Yeah, I have this piece of the iron, of the rebar. Okay, you can circulate this around. Okay, Those are for the construction, excuse me, for construction of this containment. This is the so-called primary containment. The one outside, this is the secondary containment. Okay. So for the primary containment, you have this, the rebar is 18, number 18 rebar. Each meter will weigh 20.3 kilogram. For the regular room one is only 2.24 kilogram per meter. For some of the heavy duty one, like the 101 tower, it will be 6.4 kilogram per meter. So this is much higher than that one. It's about 3 times as high, the density of the steel. And this person, the thickness of the primary containment wall is anywhere from 1.2 to 2 meters. So it can sustain very high pressure, up to about 3 to 4 atmospheric pressure. Okay. So to test this containment wall, they ran this F-4 Mirage fighter with 70 kilometers per hour, which is about 60% of the sonic velocity, and hit the wall. It's only 6 centimeters out of 120 centimeters, so only 1/20th dent. So the wall retained, okay. And besides, if you have any kind of small amount of radionuclide generated in the containment, you have this so-called standby gas treatment system having the reason to subscribe the radionuclide. So whatever comes out of the stack is minimal. Okay. So we have several things. One is we have emergency core cooling to keep the core cool. We have the post-accident heat removal to remove the heat. Then we have, if any radionuclide generated transport, will be stayed in this containment, so the integrity will be able to sustain. Then the radionuclide retention will be all retained in this containment. Even for the accident of the Fukushima type, their primary containment sustained. Okay. So does the one for the 3 Mile Island happen in the United States. The containment integrity sustained. Okay. So we have several barriers. We have so-called defense in depth and multiple barriers. We have many barriers: the fuel pellet, cladding, reactor control, 3 ways to shut down the reactors. We have reactor cooling water to keep the core cool. We have the reactor pressure vessel to sustain very high pressure, up to about 90 atmospheric pressure. We have the emergency cooling. Okay, and finally, we have this containment to sustain about 3 to 4 times of the atmospheric pressure. So the so-called this defense in depth philosophy. There are 3 things. One is to prevent accident from happening. There are so many water injection systems to keep the core cool. Okay, and the second one is to provide multiple barrels for protection. And the third one is to mitigate the progression once the accident happens. Okay. So if you look at all the this risk associated with the existence of the nuclear power, there's 100 nuclear power plant. Okay. So we are right now we have about 400 nuclear power plants in the world. Okay. So it will be 0.004 per year. If we include all the total main cost accidents, it will be 1 to 10 per year. Like if a big airplane crash, so the occurrence of them for 100 people to die is relatively low, but for the total main cost accident will be about 1 per year. Okay. Okay. This is like a tiger in a zoo. If you live in a place where a zoo is located, you don't worry about tiger from getting out of the zoo, because there are so many safety features to contain the animal. You have cages, you have fences, and you have deep ditches surrounding the cage, this so-called multi-barrier. And also you can catch the animal once it's getting out, using tranquilizer guns to make the animal immobile, so you can bring the animal back to the zoo, back to its cage. We call that mitigation. Okay. Okay, the impact of global warming and air pollution, you have this desertification of Earth, melt ice at the North and South poles, rise of the seawater at extremes of weather, it becomes either very cold or very hot, and you have substantial amount of haze in atmosphere. Okay, so reduction of this, one example is the reduction of the agricultural product. Last year, there was a severe drought happening in California, led to $2 billion loss. Also, 15,000 job loss because you don't have enough agricultural product for people to work. Okay. So that's just one typical example. Waste. This is ice at the North Pole. That was several years ago. Now it's got substantially reduced. As a result, those ice, they can reflect the heat back to the atmosphere. If you have a so-called ocean dark blue, it will absorb heat. That's one way to absorb the heat. Okay. Another one is like in Beijing, China, it broke the 26-year record. So cold, even some of the ice in the bay become frozen. Okay. That's severe cold in Russia. 200 people died of frozen or more than 1,000 fires from heating. Okay. The temperature dropped to as low as 40 degrees, minus 40 degrees centigrade. Yeah, this was the truck in Ukraine. The winter storm is all buried by the storm, by the snow. Okay. The heat wave in India, just half a month ago, led to 2,200 deaths. Even the temperature gets as high as 40 degrees centigrade. The zebra crossing zone become molten, as you can see. Okay. Like what happened here recently, here at Taoyuan, where the Ximen Dam, it's a record low of water during its last 49 years. Okay, and we have water rationing for 2 weeks. All of a sudden, we have the seasonal rain for 2 weeks, then it gets filled up again. Okay. So there's a very famous documentary film, Under the Dome, by Jin Cai in China. She estimated about 500,000 deaths was in China was resulting from those polluted air. I just roughly estimated, just by ratio of the population, will be cost about 9,000 deaths in Taiwan as a result of these poor air qualities. And in Taiwan, 70% of the power is generated by the fossil fuel, with 50% was generated by the burning coal. Okay. And the poor quality in Taiwan led to 15% probability increase in suffering lung cancer and the children asthma, and another 25% for risk of getting strokes, heart disease, and chronic respiratory disease. Okay, so as a result of those carbon dioxide, they just shield the Earth, so the sun coming to the Earth will be trapped by this layer of carbon dioxide, so-called the greenhouse effect. Okay, so that's a key result of those global warming. Okay, so let's look at all those power generating options we have for the coal, oil, and natural gas. Anywhere from, and compared to the nuclear power, it's about 45 times, anywhere from 30 to 40 times of the coal will be generated. Okay, look at the resources for all those options. The oil to coal will be anywhere from 40 to 216 years. For the nuclear power, it's about 48 years. But if you can reprocessing those fuel, it can sustain 10 times more to 480 years. So in the duration, which we do not have very reliable renewable energy, the nuclear power is one of the choices we must have. Okay. Look at the world population, go all the way to 7 billion people in the world. Okay, as you can see, the world energy consumption is going up. That's just one so-called quadrillion BTU per day. So it's about 340. Now it's 215. It's 60% from 1990 to 2015. And you can see as the population gets up and the more people are enjoying life, there will be more energy demand. Okay. As you can see, the nuclear power and those biofuels, small amount, and the hydroelectric, both of those three are small amount. The majority are natural gas, oil, and the coal. It's getting up. Okay. And as you can see, these three things, the coal-fired, gas, coal, and the oils, it's about 70% of the overall energy will be produced by those so-called fossil fuel type of thing. And in the meantime, the carbon dioxide concentration is getting up anywhere from 310 parts per million by volume to all the way to about 385. Okay. And as a result of that, the warming up of the temperature is getting up. The first one is due to the renaissance. You have this steam engine. The second part is due to the China and the India. Yeah, they have become more modernized. They are using a lot of more energy. As you can see from this chart, this is for the UK. This is for the United States. And China is they start from 1987. They become their modernization started in 1987, go all the way. Now it's become the world's largest energy user in China. Okay. Like those are the nuclear power plant in China. They are very aggressive. They are trying to build about around 200 over the long-term period of time. The India is another big country that will have lots of nuclear power generation. And even Saudi Arabia, they are oil producing. They have 16 nuclear power plants in the future. This is United Arab Emirates. They are oil producing country. They have about 14 plants in the future. So far, the worldwide, we have 436 existing plants in operation. I mean, over the long term, we have another about 400, about 500 more in the planning. Okay, those are the situations for the nuclear power. As you can see, France got the highest percentage of nuclear power being generated, is 75%. United is 20%. Taiwan is about 21% of electricity. Okay, fossil fuel 70%. Okay, and the renewable, all those solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, 9% of the generation of the power by those hydro. By those so-called renewable. Okay. As you can see in Taiwan, all the increases are due to the fossil fuel, and this is the nuclear power. And the renewable is really getting up, but not much. Okay. For nuclear power, okay, all you need in 1.5 year, in 1 year, okay, is only 81 tons. So one airplane load will be able to ship all the fuel. But if you go by the core, you need 95 ships with 60,000 tons per ship to ship all those. So the concentration is 1 to 70,000. The power density ratio is so much. And the price of the oil is fluctuating all the way, can be $140 per barrel. Now it's around about 60 to 70. Per barrel. So you need to pay all those high costs for using the oil. Okay. And you can see the price you pay for nuclear power is much less than the others. Okay. Now this is just one example. The nuclear power is less than $1 NT dollar. Okay. If you go to solar and wind, all those things, you're much higher. Now you are paying 2.89 on the average per kilowatt per degree of the power used. Okay. So if you count on those, you won't be able to pay that. It will be subsidized from the government. Okay. As you can, the wind and the hydro, their so-called capability, that means only about 30% of the time they are available. The rest, you still need to use those fossil and the nuclear to provide for backup. Okay. For nuclear power, it's about 90%. Okay. So some people do not believe in the number generated by the Thai power company. Yeah, there's another number, it's 0.95. Those are our NTs. But if you look at the United States and Japan, they are about in the same area. Okay. So for Thai power company, nuclear power is about 60 cents. Okay. Overall, it's 1.6. If you get rid of our nuclear power, this will go up. Okay, will go much higher. Go up much higher. Okay. So also the availability for nuclear power is very high, over 90%. The world average is 77.8. Or those unplanned capacity factor, that means the time you have to shut down the plant for refueling, for maintenance, Taiwan is much lower than that. So Taiwan is number 5 out of 30 worldwide. So their performance are very good in providing the nuclear power plant. Also, for the Taiwanese company, in 1983, we have 12,000 barrels of this nuclear waste being generated. Now it's reduced to 327. It's a 97 reduction in 24 years. That means the waste generated is much reduced. Okay. And I'm going to talk about those 3 Mile Island nuclear accident as a result of the shutting down of those water injection system. About 30% of the fuel become molten. Okay, and here as a result, those contaminants. Oh no. The contaminant is intact, so all those radionuclide is contained within this contaminant. So there's no minimum releases of this nuclei to the environment. Okay. This is the Russian one, or the Russian Chernobyl. Again, they have the core, lot of core, part of core is uncovered, so it's overheated. They do not have the containment, the high pressure containment to contain all the radionuclides, so lots of release to the environment. Yeah, 31 people get killed right on the spot. They are firefighters. They don't know what's going on. They will get killed because you cannot see all those radionuclides. Okay, so this is the most recent. It happened in the 2000 in the Fukushima one. Okay, also there's without timely injection of the seawater into the reactor, and the core become molten. Okay, and the containment, this primary content sustained. Okay, the secondary content was blown away due to the hydrogen burning inside the containment, but the primary one is still there. Okay, still there. So the radionuclide released to the environment is only 1/10 of the radionuclide releases compared to the accident that was happening in Russia many years ago. Okay. So if you look at all the action taken after the Fukushima accident, the Chancellor Merkel announced it will stop immediately the 8 nuclear power plants started operating in 1980. They will stop all nuclear in 2022. Well, the government will compensate $1.5 billion by the government. Okay. One thing, this amount of money is about 25% of our national governmental budget in Taiwan. Okay, that means 25% of the money will be shifted just to buy the replacements of fuel. One thing is their power cost is 11 NT dollar. In Taiwan, it's less than $3. So are you willing to pay for those $8 per degree per kilowatt hour? Then you have to think about it. Okay. And for the Japan, okay, also they shut down all the plants. They are paying $3 billion US dollar for that. Okay, each person will pay 250 US dollar. That's 7,500 NT dollar per person. Are you willing to pay for that much? Okay. Besides, also the cost of fuel in Japan is $18. In the United States, $2. Because United, they have many energy resources. In Japan, just like in Taiwan, about 96 to 98% of power are imported. So you don't have much choice. So everything is very expensive. Yeah. So the cost of like in California, the cost in California is 2 times that of state producing the coal. Even in the United States, there's a big difference in the cost of electricity. The high cost of electricity will raise the cost of consuming electrical power. They will lead into lower the competitiveness of a country, of our region. Like in Japan, even after the Fukushima nuclear accident, there's an energy research institute. They still recommend 25% go nuclear. Just like in Taiwan, it's about 21%. Right now, Japan is around 20 to 25%. So those are still part of the overall energy programs. So I'm going to talk about how are we going to deal with the accident happening in Fukushima, how the Taiwan company can do that. So one thing is always limit the core uncoverage time, keep the core cooling. So you want to inject the water into and try to depressurize the containment. When it's a high pressure, you cannot put the water in. Also the injection, so to keep the core stay below 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit or 818 degrees centigrade. So it will not be overheated. There will be no radionuclide releases. Okay. So we have a so-called compound accident, earthquake together with tsunami. The Japanese Fukushima, the tsunami is 15 meters high. It's about 5 stories high. Those water, but their water containing wall is only 10 meters, so it's 5 meters over the wall. So lots of equipment being flooded. So there will be no water. Okay, but there's only one water system. It's called the RCIC. Okay, they draw the steam from the reactor into that one, then drive this pump, then pump the water from the condensate storage tank and the other water resource back into the reactor to keep the core cool. So that's the only system available. Similar thing will happen to Taiwan. We have that available. Okay. And we have to look at those. We have many water resources. One, for the nuclear power plant number 1, we have a raw water pool up here. They have 109,000 tons that can provide 86 days of water at the 1% rated power. So for that alone, we'll be able to sustain for 86%. So in the meantime, you can do lots of things to keep everything up, okay? So also to vent the content, inject water, okay? So to conclude, okay, even with all those debates in whether you want to use nuclear power or not, I still think that we should power Taiwan the nuclear way as part of our energy alternatives. Right now it's about 21%. So based on the feature of safe nuclear power plant should have those options in Taiwan. One is the defense in depth and multiple barriers. Those are the safe design concept. The second one will have substantial reduction of global warming and air pollution. And the third one is a reduction of nuclear waste, much reduced. Okay. The fourth one is measures. We have methods, approaches to mitigate the consequence once the compound accident happens. Okay. And last is low cost in power generation. Okay. The one last is we do need to have effective communication of those features with people in Taiwan, like people like you. Okay, it's necessary for adequate assimilation of the information of the so-called safe nuclear power. And thank you for your attention.